Oblivion Remastered is real, and it's here. It's been a couple days since its release, but it just shadow dropped suddenly on all platforms, including Xbox Series S and X, PlayStation 5, and Steam. Now, obviously, I wouldn't say it completely shadow dropped, considering we had been anticipating this for at least a few weeks. There were rumors about it a few weeks ago, and while it would have been nice to actually have this be a real shadow drop, one where we didn't know this and had any leaks prior ahead of time, I think a lot of people are still really excited for this. I mean, just look at the concurrent player count on Steam. Now, I don't usually look at a concurrent player count, especially on Steam, to sort of quantify how well a game is doing, because, just because it's performing well on one platform doesn't mean it's performing well on all platforms, or vice versa. I don't think it really paints an entire picture of how a game actually is. But it is also a decent metric to consider as well. Just make sure you're not using it as a be-all, end-all. But anyway, yeah, that aside, let's talk about this remaster. And I'm actually really surprised that this is a remaster and not a remake. When the reports came out, it was rumored to be a remake, and then now we found out it's a remaster. But it really does feel like a remake. Now, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I think the definition of what a remake and a remaster has kind of been blurred, right? That delineation has been blurred. We don't know exactly how to define it one way or another. I think a lot of different companies and different people will define it a lot more differently than some others. The reason I would consider this to be a remake is because this was rebuilt from the ground up. It's in a new engine and all the assets have been recreated. It's also got reworked animations and combat, and the UI is also different. It's much cleaner. It just works better. Some of the controls have been refined to be more modern. Now, a couple of those things, including resolution bump and improved textures and lighting and such, they can all fall under the category of a remaster. But when you have all of these different changes, including rebuilding assets, recreating assets, remaking them, then that's something that I would probably consider to be a remake. Especially if we look at The Last of Us Part 1, which is apparently considered to be a remake. I think a lot of people do consider that one to be a remaster, and fair enough. If we're considering all of these types of things to be remasters, then fine. But as far as I'm concerned, I would also consider that to be a remake because we are still remaking things from scratch, just maybe not in its entirety. However, maybe some people just see it as maybe the term remake is reserved for a full remake where everything is redone, including, the animations, the voice acting, and everything in its entirety. Then fine, I guess I could accept that. But I also think that Bethesda and Virtuos were really careful in calling it a remaster, simply because I know there's a lot of backlash in terms of how something is classified as a remake or a remaster. I think a lot of people would see this and think, hey, this isn't really enough to warrant calling it a remake and whatever. Because people get upset about everything, from yellow paint to, I guess now, this game not looking green enough. But either way, whatever this is, this game looks incredible, and it is incredible. It's almost exactly the way you remember it from 19 years ago, back in 2006, if you played it all the way back when, except now it's got that fresh coat of paint that just makes everything feel more modern. And also, for me, as someone who never actually finished the original, I play a little bit of Bethesda games, I never actually see them to the end. This is perfect for me, because I've grown so used to more modern games, even though I used to play games back then. Personally, I find it very difficult to go back to some of those older controls. Not that it's impossible, or that I couldn't get through it, it's just that I prefer these more updated mechanics. Now, that's not to say that those mechanics are outdated, mind you. I just think that these, in my opinion, are better. Although, I have a friend who loves Oblivion, who's played this over and over again, who knows this game like the back of his hand, and he actually prefers the original game. So, I also do think that there is something about this where I think people will look at remakes and remasters and be like, well, no, I'm just going to stick to the original, and that's totally fine, you can. I think there's just a place for both of these things to exist. Now, everything that you see here is still the same old Oblivion that you've come to know and love. It's still got all that jankiness, all those really weird and awkward dialogue. It still remains as peak meme content. When you think about all the memes and the NPC stuff, it's not like that feeling is going to disappear. It's still all there. I think that's the charm that comes with it. They decided to keep things intact, just making it look better. And I mean it, I really do. I don't think that this video or any video that you watch on YouTube is really going to do it justice. I think most of the comparisons that you'll see on here just won't really show you exactly the difference. That usually is the case for, I think, most comparisons. That's simply because when you're capturing footage, it already compresses the file. It doesn't look exactly the way that you are seeing it on a TV or a monitor with, you know, all of those bells and whistles that come with those internals built in. And then on top of that, once you make the video, you know, you throw it into YouTube and everyone knows YouTube's compression is utter garbage. So you're not really going to see that true difference here. I'm only really just including these differences just so that you can get some idea of the differences here. I still think that there is a large difference and a significant difference even between the two, because this is a 19-year difference, but I know there are going to be people who go, why does the first one look better, when it really doesn't. Now, a case can be made for, you know, the lighting and such. I mean, the lighting in the remaster is definitely better. It just is. It's using the power of Unreal Engine 5, and I don't think like the old Creation engine is really going to rival that. That's just how it is. But again, when you see the side-by-side comparison in this video or in other videos, you probably are looking at it like, okay, well, I mean, the original one, it just is much brighter, and I like the color grading more. I like the tone more. Like, why couldn't they keep that green intact? I think if they released like an update where you could have that sort of green filter, that would be great. But I also think that the remaster isn't quite as dark as maybe some people think it is. Like, again, you have to actually see it on a TV, actually play it for yourself and check it out for yourself, which you can if you've got Game Pass. You're less risk averse. And I'm telling you, it looks beautiful. And believe me, like, I've played both of these versions, and I'm gonna be honest, like, yeah, it just looks a lot better. I think maybe depending on the type of screen you have, the type of panels you have, maybe one may look better than the other, but as far as I'm concerned, on my screen, on my TV, yeah, the remaster just is overall better, even as far as lighting and tone is concerned. It isn't that brown, trust me. But there's so many quality of life improvements here, like not just, you know, the visuals and stuff, but also just even something as simple as the ability to run, like actually sprint, not just a little bit of jogging that you automatically do. No, like you can actually sprint, which I know it sounds silly to talk about in 2025, the fact that you can actually sprint for once, but hey, when we're talking about Oblivion, this is a pretty massive change, because you can go from point A to point B so much faster, it doesn't feel nearly as draining or restricting. And honestly, if nothing else, is probably one of the best changes in this entire game. The facial animations aren't the best. I don't think it was ever going to be, but I guess that's why they're calling it a remaster. I guess when you call it a remake, people are expecting it to be on par with other 2025 games, ones that are at that level, and that was never something that they actually set out to do. They just kind of wanted to update that original game. But yeah, all the original dialogue is still here, with some actual added dialogue for the different races as well. But don't worry, it's not like that they replaced any of it. There's just some additional dialogue as well. And yes, that means that every character, including the Adoring Fan, are all still in this, and they are still the same that you remember, except the Adoring Fan is far more horrifying than I could have ever imagined.
Wow, you're the Grand Champion. I saw your fight against the Grey Prince. You're the best. Can I follow you around? I won't get in the way.
Like every other character in this game, I think looks much better. You know, they look more realistic. They look like actual people to some degree. But the Adoring Fan is the outlier here, where he looks even creepier somehow than he did before. And then also, you know, your own character looks like an actual human. I mean, yeah, sure, you can make them look still just as horrifying, even arguably worse, but like, yeah, generally speaking, you can actually make them look like actual people for once. And there's actual beard options this time, not just whatever this is. Now, you're probably wondering about all those bugs and whether or not they fix those. And for some people, that could be like a good or a bad thing as to whether or not they did. But I'm happy to report it's somewhere in the middle, where, as for my experience, I do think that it is a bit more polished. It is definitely more so than the original, though I can't really say, because, you know, I mean, it's not like I got a ton of bugs to begin with in the original either, but I would say as a point of comparison just between the two, personally, I think that the remaster has fewer. However, those bugs still are present. Nothing particularly game-breaking, but sometimes just kinda silly, and I guess that just makes it part of the overall Bethesda charm. Like, all the stuff that's a bit rough around the edges is still here. Like, it's not like it's a totally different game. It's still the same thing. So whether or not that's a good thing for you is going to vary from person to person. But personally, I think a lot of people are going to love this. And actually are loving this, because, I mean, look at it. Everyone's playing it right now. Now, aside from the bugs and such, and looking at it from that sort of side, the performance is actually pretty great. I am playing this on the Xbox Series X. I don't think I've ever noticed any frame drops or anything. It looks stunning. Like, aside from the character models, I would say that a lot of the environments look a lot better than some other games that I've played recently in the last few months. It looks much better than you think it does. And I keep saying this over and over again, but YouTube and these trailers and whatever is just not going to do it justice. Trust me. But more than that is also the updated UI. It's so much better here, in my opinion. I mean, I know, like I said, the controls, some people may prefer the older ones and how it worked, especially if that was something that you were used to. Personally, I prefer being able to press the menu button, or the start button, or whatever it is called on your controller, to access those menus. It just makes sense. It's intuitive, rather than pressing B or circle or whatever it is in the original. And the menus just feel much more seamless. It doesn't feel as restricting or confusing. It's just much easier for me to access. And you can actually use your D-pad to be able to access some of those things. Like if you press down on D-pad, you'll be able to access your map as well. Now, I'm not a complete fan of that change because, you know, as someone who did play a little bit of the original, I did get used to being able to use the D-pad to be able to map certain actions to those buttons and whatnot. But I don't think it's a massive change. And I think overall the things that I didn't particularly like or that I didn't find as intuitive about the original have been kind of course corrected here. Which, by the way, the menus and the UI and the way that it looks is kind of like a blend of Oblivion, but also a little bit like Skyrim. It's really, really nice. I think it's much better and works a lot better. But, I mean, hey, like, if you don't like those controls, you can always actually remap them. You just have to go into the menu and the little options, and there you go. Boom. You can remap the controls to however you want. It's not like it's super limited. So if you would say that the controls are somewhat of an issue, there you go. There's an easy fix for that. Now, as far as the price is concerned, I don't know if I would totally recommend it. I mean, it is $50 USD or about 66 Canadian, and it's definitely not a bad price. At least it's not full price. And I think a lot of people who are interested in this game probably have already bought it, so I don't need to tell you, but I think that if you are looking at the two games, you've played Oblivion before, and you're not really thinking about getting Oblivion or getting back into it anytime soon, then I don't really think that there is a reason, unless you really are interested in these visual upgrades. Like, that's really it. Like, that's the main crux of this, is having, you know, these visual upgrades, and having all these little tweaks and stuff. But I think that's kind of expected, which again can be enough to justify that price tag. I definitely think it is, if that is something that you like. No, but again, I would probably recommend playing this on Game Pass. This is a perfect Game Pass game because it is less risk averse. You can try it for yourself and see if that difference and that comparison really is enough to benefit from these upgrades and such. But maybe later on down the road, you can pick it up for cheaper when it goes on sale. Now, considering how successful this has been, like, that gets you to wonder, like, are they going to do another one of these remasters next? From what I've heard, I think they're going to do Fallout 3 next. That one is rumored to be in the works, and would make total sense since, you know, Fallout is at a peak right now, considering the show and such. And I would imagine that they would probably release it closer to Season 2. Although, debatably, they also could release New Vegas, considering that Season 2 will be focusing on that a lot, but I guess we will have to see. But anyway, this was a bit of a different video than most of my reviews, because this one was a bit more off the cuff, and I thought it was just easier to sort of talk about it in this fashion rather than have it be fully scripted. But yeah, let me know. Are you going to install it? Have you installed it? Are you playing it right now? What do you think? Let me know down below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you one-up it, and maybe consider subscribing if you want to see more reviews. But until next time, I'll see you soon.